Welcome back to the podcast. And today I wanted to touch on something that spontaneously came up in a conversation with one of my older adult daughters. And it had to do with days that you feel unproductive. So, back when I was full time stay at home mom season, I had many days where I felt unproductive. I had a mile long to-do list, and it seemed as though none of it got done. And days like that really can be depressing. It can feel like you're not just not getting ahead, you're not even keeping up. And that can be really just, it can be so hard on your heart that you turn around and you just mentally beat yourself up on everything. I don't know why we do that. We just beat ourselves up on that when some things are not in your control. So, with that spontaneous conversation of the days where I had the feeling that I didn't have anything done, like I was not being productive, I learned some things about myself maybe that did make me feel like I had gotten something done, even on a day that felt unproductive. Like maybe it was not on the to do list, but I had a few things that I could do that were within my control, no matter what. And I could get those done. And I actually was able to feel productive in that way. So I'll share those with you. First of all, the overall idea is instead of a million-mile to-do list, why don't we think of like, if I can only pick one thing I had to get done today, what would it be? And it depends on your season as to like your to-do list or your goals or however you want to view what you need to do. Everybody has stuff to do. Everybody has different deadlines. And depending on the season you're in with motherhood or your family life, it depends on how much time you have to dedicate to each thing. So, what I think of it now and then also, but now I've learned to adopt it and just embrace the days when they come, is not every day is going to be a to do list productive day. And when those happen, what is the one thing you could get done today that has to be done today? Like tomorrow, it's too late, right? So today, it has to be done. Besides living, sometimes in your season, maybe you're postpartum. And I mean, I know what that was like trying to nurse three babies, and then you have four more older than them, up to 7 years old. And that was my to do. That, I mean, there really shouldn't have been anything beyond that on my plate that I needed to do besides keep up with my family because that was the most important thing. So, what is the one thing that needs to be done today that cannot wait until tomorrow? Easy one would be appointments or deadlines. So, just say you have a pediatrician appointment. That has to be done today. You can't just show up at the pediatrician's office and say, "Here I am. Today wasn't a great day." Or, you can't just show up the next day. It has to be today. Maybe it's your taxes. We're in tax season in January, February, and that is something that has a deadline, right? So in the States, it's April 15th for personal taxes. And that is a deadline. Like you have to have it postmarked or you have to have the accountant, you know, do X, Y, and Z for your taxes. You have to have these things in and it has to be filed by April 15th. So that is a deadline. So maybe you have a doctor's appointment, maybe you have a deadline for paperwork. Those things cannot wait for certain conveniences on your days. The days don't matter, the deadlines do. So, what is one thing you needed to get done today that cannot wait tomorrow? Beyond that, one thing I learned for me, and I will tell you what I did and what I learned about myself that helped me during the days that the to do list was not getting done. And for whatever reason, outside of my control, this is what I could control. And this is what helped me feel not just like I got something done, but made me feel more calm and more tidy and organized in the process. So, the first one I would say is cleaning out my car. It sounds so silly, but actually going to a car wash, I would make a routine of this with all 7 kids. And I would, you know, take all the kids with me when it was me full time. I would take all the kids and we would go to a car wash. And the ones I appreciated the most was the ones where you could drive through them. You had a car wash, and then on the other side or around the corner or whatever, there was where you park and where you can vacuum. So, of course, we would make a little event of it and, have all the 7 kids and go through the car wash and then park and then get out. And we learned to make a game of it to see how fast we could do it. And it ended up being, I don't know that I would say they loved it, but they didn't hate it as kids. But when we would park for the vacuuming part, everything got taken out of the car. I mean, everything. Strollers. When you're talking about a triplet stroller, that was a huge thing. Like we looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. We had everything pulled out, car seats pulled out, boosters pulled out, diaper bags pulled out, first aid kits pulled out, blankets, everything got pulled out. I think the only thing that didn't get pulled out was like the car manual in the glove compartment or the insurance card. So, other than that, everything got pulled out. And then it was like attack mode on the car. And for the ages of the kids that we had at the time, we were able to kind of divide and conquer. And all the kids, either I would assign them or we grew into like everybody knew their assignment. It's like a pit crew. So I had my own little pit crew whenever we would go through the car wash and go to the vacuum section. And some liked vacuuming, some liked doing windows, others liked having control over cleaning out this one section. So I would just divide up the kids. Like when the triplets would get older enough to add in some help, then, they got divided up a little bit more. But usually I would have like a bag for taking the house and it needs to be put up, a bag for laundry. I don't know why I ended up having laundry so much, but laundry, oh my gosh, cups. How in the world did I have so many cups in the car? I don't know. Like it needed to go inside and then it needed to be washed and put away. Same thing for clothes. And then, of course, trash, thankfully, could be left at the car wash trash can. And then even the car seats, they would get cleaned outside of the car, vacuumed underneath the car seat cover, and then they could be put back in after all the car stuff was clean and then all the stuff that was going to go back in the car, like car seats or boosters, that sort of thing, or stroller. It could be cleaned off outside or shaken out at least, and then folded back up or buckled back in. And then it could go back in the car and it could be tidy. And then I had my bags. I had my laundry bag. I had my go in the kitchen bag for dishes. Don't know why oh, just go with it. And then just the put away stuff in the house. So that would be one thing that actually made me feel like I had not just done something, but I had made something better. I had made our space cleaner by choosing to get it done when maybe nothing else was working along that to do list. So, another thing I would do is just say it was not a car wash kind of day and the to do list was not getting done. I would at least clean out my purse. Now, over the years, I've had different size purses. I will say the bigger your purse, the more stuff you are going to have. And I've learned to kind of adopt the minimal bag over time. I still end up having, to this day, more stuff in it than I need, but I will take some time to clean that purse out, even if it's the minimalist purse. So, full time stay at home mom season, like fully engaged, I usually had a medium sized purse and I had way more stuff in it than I needed. I think there was a movie like that. I think it was Michelle Pfeiffer and George Clooney, and she had a bag, and they were like single parents, and then their kids were going to this child care thing. And she, was like, oh my gosh, it's like dress up day or something. And she was just pulling everything out of that is out of her bag, and they had like costumes. And that's what we end up doing, is we end up just having everything in our bag and being resourceful, right? And making things work. So cleaning out my purse was something I did have control over, and I could put things where it really needed to go. If it did not belong in my purse, it needed to go to its place. And I mean, I would take it all out, same as the car. I would take everything out of my purse. I still do this. The car, I still do the purse. Everything has to come out. Then it gets cleaned off and out. And then the stuff gets gone through, and then it gets put back in. Or it gets taken to where it needs to go and not in my purse. So that is the second thing I've learned that I like to do that makes me not just feel. I actually don't just feel it, I know it. It is something in my space that I have control over to be put together and tidy and more peaceful. So the third thing I would say, and this takes a little more attention and intention, is balancing my checkbook. That is something I will probably have to talk a little more about over time. Is your checking account is not just a digital space. It takes up space within your mind, and we usually trust a digital thing to know whatever it is. Most of the time folks get on the phone and you get on your bank app, and then you look and see, oh, well, I have this balance. Okay, that's not going to work long term. You have to know what you have. I mean, even when through my years of, I would say, I don't care if it's negative. I need to know what the numbers are. And that way you know what you have or what you don't have. Um, because that's not where you want to be. You want to know that you have an idea of what numbers you're looking at in your checking account. You don't have to look at it all day, every day, but you might want to take into account, and I'm speaking to myself here, you probably should look at it more often than you think. We tend to use our card so many times, whether it be a credit card or a debit card. We just spend it and then we assume that the bank number is correct. And that's not always the case. Yes, they are pretty accurate, kind of like a calculator. But the bank, believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, the bank doesn't always do everything perfect. Sometimes the bank does make mistakes. And when our oldest was turning 18, we planned a big trip and they didn't even know about it. We got in the car with our livestock trailer and we drove to Montana to pick up some sheep. And of course, we had all 7 kids. The oldest one was 18. It was his 18th birthday time. So things had to line up as far as work and all that kind of fun stuff. So we drove to Montana, and the kids did know we were going to pick up sheep to take home. But what they didn't know is we were going to drop the trailer at the farm that we were picking up sheep, and we were going to just go ahead and take a side trip, just a little one, and drive to Alaska and come back to get the sheep and then drive home. So that was like our big birthday experience for our oldest. And it was to drive to Alaska from Northeast Tennessee. And really, the main thing was to go deep sea fishing. And that's what we did. But the catch of it was just before we got to Alaska, I had called our bank and told them we're going from Montana and we're driving to Alaska, calling them on their cards and that sort of thing. And they asked me exactly, where exactly are you going? And then we'll keep track and that sort of thing. So I did. And then that way they knew on their little fraud kind of thing, they knew exactly where we were going. And we crossed the border and we're driving the Alcan from Montana to Alaska. And if you've ever driven that, the beginning where we were from Montana, it was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, more populated in that area. But once you get farther and farther away and closer to Alaska on the Alcan, it gets a little more sparse. Like the internet is sparse, the people are sparse, the gas stations are sparse. I mean, we were seeing cars here and there or RVs, and they didn't just have their car, they had gas cans like strapped to their car with gas in it. And it was a little unnerving because we didn't know when the next gas station would be. So note to self, if you're on the Alcan, definitely if you see a gas station, go ahead and fill up. So we're driving along the highway, and we only went to a few places that we needed to get gas. And some of those were thankfully open after hours, so you can use your card whenever no one was there. And we would boondock. We would just sleep in the car along the journey to get, from the US border through Canada to Alaska. But I only used my card a couple of times. And one of the times I had gone into this gas station and everybody was getting a drink, going to the bathroom, whatever. And I remember it so vividly because it was Canada Day. I remember seeing a newspaper and it was like Canada Day and it was the celebration of it and that sort of thing. And I had talked with the gal at the gas station behind the counter, and she had a little son and he was a few years old, and I don't know why, I just ended up talking with folks. So we all get in the car and we just go about our business and travel along, and we get into Alaska. And what I did not know, as a side note, is once you get to the Alaskan border, you still have a long way to go. For some reason, I don't know why, I was just going to get in Alaska, cross the border, and I don't know what I was expecting besides people and towns. Mm-mm. Like, it's like more wilderness. You have to travel, like, I want to say it was like another 4 to 6 hours. It's been many years to get from that border to Anchorage. So my point, going through Canada, there wasn't a whole lot of reception. And this is what I think about whenever I think of people that just depend on their app or their banking app or getting online with the computer, is they think it's just going to, whatever it says, it is. Well, I'm here to tell you, I didn't have the reception to be able to check my phone, text, internet, didn't matter. The reception wasn't there. And by the time I had gone from Montana to Anchorage, when my husband called to make the fishing arrangements, they ran the card and replied back, "There's no money in your account." So, of course, we're like, "What do you mean there's no money in the account?" Well, there was plenty of money in the account to do this. This was the whole plan. Well, come to find out, someone took my card number and sold it out. And they had had a grand time. So in between Montana and Anchorage, Alaska, they had wiped the whole account out. And interestingly, I had called the bank, right? I had called the bank and told them exactly where we were going. We were going from Montana to Anchorage, Alaska. That's our trip. Well, my card number had been sold to the eastern, like all the charges that were going on it that wiped the whole thing out were going east. I remember that all the charges were on the east side. We were on the west side, so it didn't really make sense. So the internet failed. I couldn't check it. Even going through Alaska, it was like sparse internet. I wasn't trying to keep on top of it, but someone else was having a grand time with whatever was in our account. So we worked it all out and we were able to still go fishing. But that was a huge lesson, like huge. It actually did have a pretty good monetary number to put on it. That was a very good lesson that if you don't keep up with it, you're not going to know if someone else is making a mistake, or if you, like me, your card was used even in the simplest sense, not like all of it. Some of that stuff is they'll just charge a little bit and just to see if they can use it and then it's gone. But I'm telling you a big story, which is just because you think the bank number is right doesn't always mean it's right. We were not the ones that spent all that money. Someone had taken my card number and spent all the money on everything. I mean, they bought tires, they bought, things that are in the mall, lady stuff. They did all kinds of things. And it was multiple charges. And I don't know why it didn't get caught with the bank, but it didn't. And we worked it out. We still went fishing and I had to come back home to sign affidavits and all that wonderful stuff. So don't trust the bank account number on your app. It's really your responsibility to keep up with that. And I guess in a way, we assume that someone else is going to do it for us. It's not their job to do it for us. It's their job to keep up with what they need to keep up with. It's your job and my job to keep up with whether or not something is accurate or not. That was a big lesson. And like I said, it did work out, not just for the lesson, but the money did come back. They had to front the money. The bank did. And then I always wondered what happened with that. Evidently, on international stuff, you can't really I don't know. I'm digressing a lot here. Just so you know, I really what happened? Did they ever catch the person or persons? Don't know. Anyway, so those are the things that I would do in order to make my unproductive feeling day be productive. I would at least do one of those 3 to 4 things. One would be, what is the one thing that I could get done today that has to be done today? Tomorrow is too late. 2, I would say I would clean out my car completely, almost gut it, and then clean it, and then put the things back. 3 would be to clean out my purse. Same idea. Take everything out, clean it, put everything back that's supposed to go back, and then minimize what you do put back. And what isn't supposed to go back, put it where it goes. Put it in its home. And then 4 is the checkbook, your checking account. Know what you have, balance it. Learn how to actually be accountable with your accounting. And I speak to myself on this as well. Just, from then on, make it a priority to have those things accounted for. Yeah. Okay. So that's the recap that I have to make your unproductive day productive. Do one thing that you have to get done today. Clean out your car, clean out your purse, or balance your checkbook. That's what helped me on my unproductive days. So for more homesteading and homemaking Make sure you sign up on thehappyhomesteadmaker.com, and I will see you on the next podcast.